Challenger Deep by Neil Shusterman follows the story of a 15-year-old boy who basically goes through a period of mental illness, and it follows his struggles through that. But the thing about this book is that you can find it very confusing and for that reason boring. A lot of the wording is weird, and it's kind of hard to follow what's going on because the first half is just very abstract. Like there's basically two settings: one that follows the main character, Caden Bosch, one that follows his world, and the other one follows a fantasy world, which is sort of, I guess you could say, what he's feeling as opposed to what's reality. And so it jumps between these two settings quite frequently, and basically in the fantasy world, everything is really weird and unusual and strange, and the wording is quite abstract, and everything's weird except Caden himself, which is normal compared to everything else around him. But in the reality setting, Caden is the unusual thing, and so he's struggling through mental illness, so he says a lot of weird things, and basically everything around him is normal, like his friends and his family, and they're trying to understand why he's saying these weird things, acting weird, stuff like that. So the thing about the settings is that they are actually parallel to each other, and everything that happens in, let's say, the reality setting also happens in the fantasy setting, just in a different way. So for example, if the fantasy setting takes place on a ship in the middle of the ocean, and let's say someone jumps off the ship, sort of symbolizing committing suicide. Someone at the hospital in the reality setting committed suicide. So stuff like that exists, and it's sort of the same reality. And so there's hints of that throughout the book, that the two settings are equal to each other or parallel, and I didn't really truly figure that out and understand that everything is going on at the same time until about halfway through the book, which basically made the first half of the book pretty confusing and boring, and I considered just dropping the book multiple times because it was just hard to understand, and I didn't really figure out what was going on. So the plot of Challenger Deep is pretty unusual. There isn't much of a substantial plot. There's not much action or suspense that goes on in the book. So basically it jumps between the two settings, and basically in the reality setting, you could say, Caden starts acting weird. His family and friends are like, what's going on? And so basically his parents end up putting him in a psychiatric unit of a hospital for teenagers that are suffering from the same problems. And so then that's about the second half of the book is just him in the hospital. So the overall theme of Challenger Deep would have to be mental illness or dealing with mental illness. And so for that reason, I think the people that would most enjoy this book and appreciate it would be people that are either struggling through mental illness themselves or know a family member or friend who has had a similar experience to that of the main character, Caden. People who would not like it would be people that were looking for a more substantial plot, more action or suspense, and not something that is relatively difficult to understand and sort of wrap your head around. But whoever you are, I think if you have an open mind, then Challenger Deep will provide you with a different way of the perception of a story.